So here's our worship space with a basket of eggs. Let's open the eggs and see what they tell us about the Easter story. Easter eggs for an Easter story. Let's open the first egg, a blue one. And what's inside? A little donkey. In Jesus' day, most people walked everywhere. Sometimes kings rode on donkeys or horses when they entered a city. The people would stop what they were doing and watch as the king rode by. On the day that Jesus rode into their city, the people were thrilled to see him. They believed that he was their new king who had come to save them and to fill their lives with joy. The people showed their happiness by spreading tree branches and coats on the road. This was their way of showing honour to Jesus, much like we might use a red carpet today. Let's have another egg, a pink one. There are coins in the pink one. Not everyone was happy to have Jesus as his king. Some people only pretended to be happy, but on the inside they really didn't want anything to do with him. One of those pretenders was a man named Judas Iscariot. Some other men hated Jesus so much they wanted to kill him, but they needed the help of someone who could get them close to Jesus. Because Judas Iscariot was a pretender, and because he was greedy for money, he told these men that he would help them capture Jesus if they would pay him 30 silver coins. A purple egg. Inside it is a cup. Jesus had a special dinner with his disciples, 12 of his closest friends who travelled with him and learned from him. During the meal, Jesus stood up and held out a cup and gave everyone a drink. Then he said something that was hard for them to understand. He said that the wine in the cup was his blood. He didn't mean that they would actually be drinking blood, but that the wine was a symbol, a picture of his blood. He wanted them to remember this special night and the promise he was making to them and to all people. Let's hear more about his promise. An orange egg. Inside it are praying hands. After dinner with his disciples, Jesus took them to a garden. He asked them to pray while he went to another place in the garden to talk to God alone. He began to be sad and to dread what he knew was going to happen soon. He was going to die. Jesus was willing to die, for he once said, "No one takes my life from me, but I lay it down of my own accord." You see, one of the amazing things about Jesus was that, like no one before or since, he was both God and man at the same time. The God part of him was willing to die because of his great love for us. But the human part of him did not want to experience pain, the pain that he would surely suffer by dying on a cross. When you are afraid or sad, you can do just as Jesus did. Pray. A green egg. In the green egg is a whip. When Jesus finished praying in the garden, the men who wanted to kill him took him as their prisoner. They brought Jesus to Pilate, their ruler, and he had Jesus whipped. The whip used was long and hard, and it hurt Jesus so much that he bled. Jesus hadn't done anything wrong. The men who wanted to kill him were afraid of losing power, so they wanted Jesus out of their way. They knew that if people really believed that Jesus was the Son of God, which he was, they would follow him and not them. A yellow egg. In the yellow egg, there's a rooster, a cockerel. You may wonder what that has to do with the Easter story. Peter was one of Jesus' closest friends. He once promised Jesus that no matter how dangerous things might become, he would always be loyal. Jesus could depend on him. But that began to change when Peter realized that those who planned to kill Jesus might want to kill him too. In fact, Peter was so afraid that he denied even knowing Jesus. Just the evening before, when Peter had promised to be loyal, Jesus told him that he would indeed deny knowing him, not just once or even twice, but 3 times. And in fact, it happened just as Jesus said it would. The rooster was still crowing when Peter remembered what Jesus had said. Before the cock crows twice, you will deny me 3 times. Peter was so ashamed that he ran away and cried. Another orange egg. Inside this one is a crown of thorns. After Jesus had been whipped, the soldiers took branches with thorns, twisted them into the shape of a crown, and shoved it down on Jesus' head. Again, Jesus bled. We know that because Jesus was the Son of God, perhaps he could have stopped the men from hurting him, but he let them continue. Why? Because even though he hadn't done anything wrong, he had never sinned. Jesus was taking the punishment for all the wrong things that any person had ever done or ever would do. That includes you and me. A green egg. In a green egg are 3 nails formed into a cross. The soldiers took Jesus to the top of a hill outside the city. Then, using nails much larger than these, they nailed him to a rough wooden cross. He died there a few hours later. The Bible tells us that Jesus was stronger than any man. The soldiers couldn't have killed him if he'd not let them. Surely he could have fought off the soldiers. Why didn't he? Because God loves people so much. Jesus wanted us to see. The things that we do or the ways that we act that don't please God hurt. And so Jesus hurt too. Even though it hurt Jesus badly, he was willing to do what God the Father asked. He loved God, and he loves us too. A purple egg. Inside the purple egg, a spear. 2 robbers were crucified with Jesus, one on each side of him. When the soldiers came to check the 3 men on their crosses, Jesus had already died. Just to make sure, though, one of the soldiers stabbed Jesus in the side with a spear. It's sad to think that Jesus died, and that he died in such a cruel way. But he gave his life up out of love, to teach that love is more important than anything that we do that's wrong. Telling lies, stealing from others, disobeying God in any way, or even hurting others, like the soldier who stabbed him. A light blue egg. Inside it, a piece of cloth. After Jesus died, a man named Joseph asked if he could bury him. This was a brave and loving thing for Joseph to do. Remember that the men who killed Jesus did not believe that he was the Son of God. But Joseph did believe, and he wanted Jesus to have a proper burial. Joseph knew that this might get him into trouble with the soldiers, but he was brave and asked for permission anyway. They gave it. Joseph wrapped the body of Jesus in a cloth and buried him in a tomb cut out of rock, like a shallow cave. Joseph then went away sad, because Jesus was dead, and he wondered what would happen next. I wonder if you wonder what would happen next. The last part of the story is really for Easter Day, but perhaps we can read it anyway. There aren't many eggs left. Let's open the pink one. Inside it is a stone. The stone that was rolled in front of Jesus' tomb was much bigger than the stone in the egg. It was as big as a door and probably weighed more than a car. After Jesus was buried, special soldiers were assigned to stand guard at the tomb. But these men were no match for God's angels. One angel came and rolled the stone away. The guards were so afraid that they fainted. And the last egg, a white one. But there's nothing in it. It's empty. Let's read some of the Bible. The angel said to the women, "Do not be afraid, for I know that you seek Jesus who was crucified. He is not here, for he has risen as he said. Come, see the place where he lay." When two women, friends of Jesus, came to the tomb, they were surprised. The heavy stone was rolled aside and the tomb was empty. Jesus' body was not there. There was an angel who told them, "He has risen. Jesus has come back to life." This was the promise that Jesus made to his disciples at their special dinner just a few days before. That he would die, but that he would come back to life to show those who believed in him that they would live forever too. Someday, because he died for us, we can meet him and thank him for loving us in heaven.